Hey, future managers, welcome back. So I wanted to share with you a little bit more about business chemistry. Business chemistry is a tool that Deloitte came up with. Deloitte is a management consulting firm that is known globally. I had many friends from my MBA that went to work for Deloitte. And what they're known for is going into businesses, big businesses like Fortune 500 companies, all the way down to small businesses, and really helping them to solve business problems. A lot of managerial business problems come back to teamwork. All right, so Deloitte, over a series of years and after a lot of back and forth, developed this kind of profiling system that is not really a personality test. When you go to work for a business, very likely they're going to have you take a personality test. This is not it. This is basically breaking it down to 4 main types of profiles of how people kind of like to work and work together. And so once you can identify what profile you are, and then also start to kind of get hunches on what other people are, it will really help you to figure out how best to work cohesively in a team. So I wanted to share this with you guys. I think it's a really kind of a great tool that kind of augments this teamwork discussion that we're having. So there's 4 main types. The first is a driver, all right? Drivers are very analytical thinkers. They're very creative. They very much like to try new things, and they also are very much not really very blunt, very direct. They're not really all about small talk. They really are just want to go in there, get it done, keep going. It's something new, let's try it. Very much driving, go, go, go. All right, so that's one main type of business profile. And so we're going to learn a little bit about how through this process to relate to drivers better. The second is a guardian. Guardians are more realists. So they care more about being down in the weeds, the details. All right, they're very good at structure and minimizing risk. So a lot of people that work with numbers, accounting, finance, etc., are those guardians mentalities. If you are an accounting or finance person, don't worry. And you're not a guardian, no worries about that. Not all of them are, but it's just kind of a stereotypical, a lot of that kind of mindset goes well with accounting and finance. But they're very much, if it's not proven, they don't want to rock the boat. They want to go with what's tried and true, and they want to make sure that whatever decision they make is very much data-driven. They're a great person to augment any team and kind of keep things grounded and real. The third type is an integrator. An integrator is basically the one who kind of brings everybody together. We all know those types of people. They're very empathetic. They very much are attuned to other people, and they're really about trying to figure out what the bigger picture is. Like, hey guys, can't we all get along? Hey, let's not get caught, on some small disagreements. Let's focus on the big picture, getting the job done, etc. But they're really great at just trying to build relationships, build networks, build connections, and trying to consider everyone's opinions to make sure that they're all cohesive and on board before a team moves forward. Another great value add to a team. The last is a pioneer. So a pioneer is very much people, and a lot of CEOs are pioneers. They're very much adaptable. They can thrive in multiple environments. They really like to explore new possibilities. They're not happy with the status quo, which is why CEOs are always like, hey, let's try this new product, or let's try this new market. But they very much aren't all about the structure. They're not about the details, right? They're very much, we call it pie in the sky kind of mentality, because they're like, hey, let's try this, let's try that, let's keep going, and sometimes I need the opposite personality, the guardian on the team, to help kind of manage them. So it's really kind of a good balance. But those are the 4 main business profile types. Let me share a little bit more about the business chemistry thing that Deloitte has been doing with you guys. So I'm going to move this down here so you guys can see the 4 types. We just talked about it: pioneer, integrator, and guardian. All right, that up there. So basically, I want you to share, this is not something that's been around for a long time. This is a brand new, and it's picking up a lot of steam business chemistry profile. And I thought it was really a helpful tool for you guys to be able to learn as business students. All right, so basically what they've done in the last 5 years, and this chart's a couple years old, so it's probably been around 7 or 8 years by now, is they've done over 2,000 sessions so far. This has been a lot of big magazines, got a lot of really good press publication. 40%, almost half of Fortune 500 companies, literally in 5 years, have started using this business chemistry principle. All right, so it goes to show this is really picking up a lot of steam. All right, so when thinking about teamwork, what's interesting is that we talked about the guardians are kind of the ones who are working in accounting and finance, etc. We're also finding that the people that have that natural guardian type are more common in a lot of the big business sectors that are out there. We're talking about Fortune 500 firms, consumer products, energy, financial services, life sciences, healthcare, public sector, technology, media. that guardian mentality is something that you're saying is very, very popular in a lot of the big industries. So that's something that's really highly valued if you are that guardian type. All right. And if you don't, and if you're not a guardian type, maybe you want somebody that is a guardian on your team, like I said. So it's good to have that balance. All right. So it's really kind of a cool asset to show you. I also wanted to show you guys, and we'll talk more about kind of the differences when we get to global business. But what's interesting is that there's predominant styles based upon our culture. And I think it's just really, really neat. So for example, we're here in the US, you guys look over here. These are the prominent types that we find in the US. So we have the guardian type and then also the integrator. So those are main types that you're going to see prominent in a work style in the country. So that's kind of the mentality that we go into with business, is saying, hey, can't we all just get along? Let's all work together, But then also we have a little bit more reserved about ideas, or a little bit maybe guarded about our numbers or taking on something new. That's very much cultural, all right? In Europe, they're very much guardian-esque as well. Guardian-esque, I should say. In Canada, they very much care about getting along and making sure that they have consensus before they move forward. So that's kind of a neat thing. Asia Pacific, very guardian-minded. I believe that from working in Asia. And then also what's interesting is that Australia, and I've never been to Australia, guys. If you have, maybe you guys can attest to this, but they actually have a lot of pioneers out there who want to try new things. So that's kind of a cool caveat for Australia. And then they have a little bit of the integrator as well, which I think kind of comes from that British Commonwealth mentality that kind of goes there. So I just want to share that with you guys about what a cool thing this is. Let's go into depth a little bit more about what business chemistry looks like. All right, and what some of the advantages are of using business chemistry. So these are just 3 main quick things I wanted to share with you guys. So the first is figuring out, we can use this business chemistry to figure out how are we going to engage and influence stakeholders. All right, so we need to understand our own business chemistry type, and then from there, once we figure out, get a hunch on somebody else's, we're going to be able to leverage our differences in a way that's going to help complement somebody else's. So I mentioned earlier, hey, maybe you want to make sure you have somebody that's a guardian on your team to complement a pioneer. Absolutely. All right, so a quick example I gave for you guys. So say you're a CFO who's a driver. All right, so you're not a guardian CFO, you're a driver, but you're working with a pioneer CEO. All right, so a pioneer is going to love brainstorming. They don't necessarily want that structured meeting, agenda item A, agenda item B, agenda item C. No, they want to say, hey, just start your brainstorming sessions, keep it free-flowing and more fluid. All right, so that's one way a driver can really kind of adapt to how a CEO prefers to function, just in how they structure the meeting. All right, but if a driver comes in and says, hey, you know what, let's have this free-flowing meeting, but I'm going to bring some data and some numbers to help inform our brainstorming session. That's one way that's going to help a pioneer be more responsive to, the outcome and being attuned into what the meeting is about. Really small ways that you can kind of make an adaptation to help bring a team together, just in how you structure the meeting. Second main point, manage your team's strengths and weaknesses. So I want you guys to think about your SWOT and then start thinking about what the SWOT is of your team members. All right, so effective teams have both diversity. So diversity is a mix of the 4 types. All right, so you want all 4 of these types to be a part of your team if you're choosing your team. You don't want all pioneers or all drivers or all integrators. You really want somebody that's a mix, all right? And then figure out how to be able to leverage that diversity to really help the team to kind of bloom and expand, all right? So here's a couple things to have you guys think about when we're trying to figure out how do we, manage our strengths and weaknesses in light of these 4 main types. So first, observe and hypothesize. And I'm going to give you guys a tool at the end of this to help you kind of draw out that observing and hypothesizing, all right? So based on observable behaviors, which personality patterns are represented on my team? I want you guys to start thinking about that today. What of the 4 main types are represented on my team? Are we all pioneers? Is somebody an integrator? And then how can we adapt ourselves based upon what's on our team to help give us the best, in this case, ethics project possible? Second thing, identify gaps. So maybe you don't have any integrators on your team. So if that's a noticeable gap on your team, then how can you kind of make a strategy to help mitigate that issue, all right? So if you don't have anybody that's going to bring people together, you have to be a little bit more intentional to make sure everybody's on board. To be honest, everybody has some of these four personalities. We just are kind of, like I say, managers wear a lot of hats. You have to some of us more consciously wear a certain hat than others. But as we grow as managers, we're going to be able to twist and adapt and say, hey, I'm going to put on my integrator hat right now because that's what this team needs. And so that's having that awareness that you have a gap in your team and being able to mitigate it is a really strong power to have. Next is make sure you can leverage your strengths. You know, if you have a pioneer driver, man, the sky's the limit for you guys if you guys can get that. So find a way to figure out what everybody's strengths are on your team and then figure out how you can make the most out of the traits that are their strengths. And then last, celebrate diversity. Man, like I really love having just teams speaking in a larger sense. I love having people from different backgrounds in regards to like different areas of the country, different cultures. I love having people of different ages, people with different experiences, an engineer versus a salesperson versus a marketing person, because everybody just brings their own angle to whatever it is you're working on, and it really is something to celebrate. So just the minute you think you're having that kind of clashing, when people are bringing a lot of ideas together, hey, what they're really doing is like refining the ideas and making it stronger, and you need to celebrate that, all right, and create an environment where people want to be able to share all their ideas. So, and then last, I kind of mentioned a little bit already, be able to flex to multiple roles. Like I told you guys, we're all a little bit of all four of these types, all right? So just think of it like wearing a different hat as a manager. You know, you can be capable of being detail-oriented, even if you're kind of a big picture kind of person, and you can be logical or you can be collaborative, depending on whatever the team needs. So I want to encourage you guys to think about, you may have a given trait, but you can definitely flex depending on what that team needs. And so start thinking about that when you think about teamwork. So here's a little chart for you guys, just to kind of check things out a little bit. Some of you guys will find when you take this assessment that you're a mix of them, and that's awesome. Maybe you're half pioneer, half driver, half pioneer, half integrator, half driver, half guardian, etc. So it's kind of interesting to kind of think about that. I think when I took it, I am a pioneer / driver, so I embrace risk, I make decisions quickly, I usually brush off mistakes and say, let's keep going. I like to call the shots, that's the manager in me, and I also say, hey, let's try it out. If it works, great. If not, we learn something, right? So that's kind of the way that I am. So each of these traits are unique, but you can see some of them have overlap with other traits. But what's interesting is, and I want to point this out, it says 50% of people say it's the least enjoyable to work with their opposite type. So be aware of that. If half people don't like working with people that are opposite to them, that's telling me that somebody in there is not thinking of, or flexing or wearing the right hat. So, for example, if a guardian is going into a pioneer meeting with a structured agenda like we talked about, you know, that's probably why the pioneer isn't enjoying working with a guardian. They want things more free-flowing. All right, so interesting thing to kind of think about. So look at these kind of traits. So what I want you guys to do is, this is a free tool. So to do your full business chemistry assessment costs money. But what I found was this kind of is designed to help you create a hunch about somebody on your team. So I want you to take it, first of all, about yourself. So pretend you are the person you're getting a hunch about. So you know yourself pretty well. You go through, take 20 short questions. It'll take you just a couple minutes. And then start to think about what your results are. So for here an example, this is what you're going to come up with after you do your 20 questions. And again, this is mine. I took this based on myself, and I pretended like I didn't know myself very well, which is kind of funny. So there's that. But then what I want you guys to pay attention to are these interaction tips. All right, hold on to these. But these are things that you might be able to say to your team members, hey, here's kind of like the cookbook on how to work with me, all right? So, hey, make sure you're grabbing my interest quickly when we have meetings. So, you know, don't spend 10 minutes laughing and joking about what you did over the weekend, or I'm going to be zoning when we have our group meetings. Express yourself freely and clearly. Make sure you're sharing your ideas with me. Think out of the box. Be open to new ideas. Be willing to change direction. Share these things with your team. And then also tell, there's the do's and here's the don'ts. You know, don't take a long time to evaluate options. Let's make a plan and move forward. Don't dwell on the details, you know, and focus only on what's been done before. You know, let's try something new. And then don't say things like should or ought. Are we going to do it or aren't we going to do it? Be firm. So that's just a quick idea for you guys to get started on this. This is business chemistry in a nutshell. I really hope it's going to help you and your teams work together on your ethics project. See ya.